Do you know not only does that Greco-Roman, Syriac, Eastern Oriental, Egyptian Coptic Church expressly teaches that Ethiopians are descendants of Ham, they also portray the Kebun Nagus as if it's factual, when in fact Haile Selassie made it known through the 1922 regnal list that he is not a descendant of Solomon and Sheba. And why would he be? He is the root of David. And we know that Solomon and Sheba are supposed to be here in the latter years. Just read Ezekiel 38 and you will see Sheba here in the final part of the years. Hence she was not here thousands of years ago. Yet still that Tewahedo church teaches folklore as if it's facts. So let's read. Why do the heathen range and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. Yet I have set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. So where is Zion? Zion is clearly in Ethiopia. So let's listen to what the Most High has to say.
You are descended, Your Imperial Majesty, from King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba.
Notice the Canadian reporter in 1967 is telling him that he's a descendant of Solomon and Sheba. So he's literally telling Jacob, the root unto David, that he's a descendant of Solomon and Sheba. What is Selassie going to say?
This is just our story, ancient story. The Queen of Sheba, she go to visit Solomon, King Solomon. She met one son. She returned back to her country. Our story says since that time.
Our story, in other words, is not real. And how do we know that? Because Selassie himself in 1922 began his list of kings in 4530 BC. In other words, he wanted the world to know prior to his coronation. The goal of the 1922 regnal list was to showcase the immense longevity of Ethiopian monarchy. The list does this by providing precise dates spanning 6,300 years and drawing upon various historical traditions from both within and outside Ethiopia. So let's see who was the king before Menelik I. Because according to the Kebun Nagus, Menelik I was the very first king of Ethiopia. Hence, they want you to believe that Ethiopia only goes back 3,000 years. Yet still, we see it, all these kings. All right, so who's 98? So the 98th king was Makeda Saba Kandake, right? So who was the 99th? Menelik. So did you see Solomon and Sheba before Menelik I? I don't think so. So that's why Selassie says just our story. So what did the pagans do? They basically paganized God's words by adding in their fables. Hence, they literally put in the Book of the Dead inside the Book of Life.
Horus rose from the dead 3,000 years before Jesus. Born to the Virgin Isis on December 25th, her husband Osiris had been murdered. She conceived without him. Egyptian priests recorded the birth on temple walls at Karnak and Dendera by 3000 BCE. Horus had 12 followers. He walked on water. He raised Osiris from the dead. He was called the Sun, the Way, the Truth, the Light. He was crucified between two thieves on the wall of Memphis. He was buried in a tomb. 3 days later he rose. His mother Isis became the prototype for the Black Madonna iconography the Catholic Church still uses. The book...
In other words, Horus is made up. He was never a real person. That whole story is just fiction, but they use it as facts. So they basically paganize the Ethiopian original tongues by mixing in their pagan stuff.
Buddha had Jesus' biography 500 years earlier. Queen Maya conceived him in a dream when a white elephant entered her side. No human father. The sage Asita came to the palace and prophesied the infant would be a world savior. Buddha Buddha gathered 12 direct disciples. He walked on water across the Ganges. On Vulture Peak Mountain, he was transfigured in blinding light. He was tempted in the wilderness by Mara, the demon of death. He refused. He returned and preached the sermon at Deer Park, parallel to the Sermon on the Mount. His final words were inscribed on the Sarnath pillar by Ashoka in 250 BCE.
In other words, the Greek kingdom paganized the Ethiopian original tongues. So let's see who's part of the Greek kingdom. So after Alexander, the Greek defeated the Persians, who is Iran, and the Medes. The Medes is Syria, Iraq, and Turkey. And that's where you get Buddha from. Buddha was made up by the Medes. So then he parted his kingdom among them. So you just saw at least 5 different nations. Then he also took over Egypt and Rome. So Rome became part of the kingdom of the Greeks, along with Jerusalem. In other words, the Jews. So all of them are claiming to be the original Ethiopians. So let's watch.